Welcome back, everyone. So this is my 1936 Grunow 1267, I think it is. I'll have to check the tag on the back. This this radio has been giving me trouble for the 4 years I've owned it. This has been fully restored, but it's got a problem with this switch right here. This selector switch. What it does, actually right now, I think it's just not tuned in. I just turned it on. Just give it a minute. There we go. I'm going to leave it out of tune so it doesn't trigger the copyright police. But this knob is constantly causing problems. The contacts are worn. Okay. We got to take the chassis out, bring it down the stairs, and get a really good look at her. I've done this before, and it works a little while, and then it doesn't work again, and then it works, and then it doesn't, and then it works, and then it doesn't. So we're going to take it back out and give her a good look over. I think I know what the problem is. Yes? All right. So this is the chassis in question. It was a Grunow 1297 Teledial. It is a Grunow Teledial. This chassis, I've talked about it before in my channel, but this underwent a complete restoration back in the mid-2000s, like 2007 or 2008, and it was owned by the late great John Bachman of the Anatech Blue ESR meter fame. So if you've got one of those, this is his handiwork right here. And you know, these old tube chassis were never pretty, even when they were new, and it certainly isn't beautiful now. But I assure you, all of the electrolytics and any resistor that was even remotely out of value has been replaced. I actually worked for John when he was working on this, and he's an electrical engineer by trade, so he knows what he knew what he was doing. No stones are left unturned. But I don't think the restoration was ever really completed. There were some other things that just weren't quite right. I know he didn't do the cabinet. I actually talked him out of it. He was going to refinish the cabinet, and I was like, you know, it's not that bad, and it's original, it's unmolested, and I was like, you know, it's kind of beautiful the way it is. You know, I was talking him out of it, and he listened to my suggestion, and he left it alone. But now I'm like, now that I own the damn thing, I'm like, gee, the cabinet's kind of looking a bit ratty. I'd like to I will be refinishing it. I just don't know when or to what extent I'm going to go. I'm not a well-renowned cabinet restorer, to put it mildly. But anyway, yeah, I mean, this thing is pretty much right, and I believe he even solved the issue where the tuning coils, this has automatic fine tuning, basically, where it will go within a percentage up and down, I believe, of the point on the dial, and it will find the strongest. It's like an automatic tuning eye kind of thing. And that was a known issue for these chassis. And it looks like these tuning coils, I know he went through hell trying to get these just right. Although this one, I see a lot of really dark solder braid on here, like it's seen a lot of heat. I do question this. I do. 179. I think that was referring to its value in ohms. I don't know. Look, I'm not a radio guy. I'm not an electrical engineer. I am really not at the caliber that I need to be to fix this correctly, but I know enough, I think, to fix this thing. It is a running set. I mean, it works fine. But the real problem is actually two places. We've got this volume control and power control. And I've had this apart before. I flushed it out with tuner cleaner, and it worked a little bit for a little while, and it's acting up again. So we're gonna have to take this back out and fix it, clean it. I'm gonna flush it again. But the big problem is with this right here. So if you look at these contacts, you know, when this thing was new 80 years ago, these little fingers would slide into these forks, which are spring-loaded, and they would make contact for whatever function they're intended for. What we need to do is we need to do our damnedest to clean up these components as best as we can, because when I put a little bit of pressure on this, it works or it doesn't work. There's a sensitivity issue here, and when this set warms up, that's when it starts to really act up, and it has to do with this. So what I've got to do is I'm going to mark off where everything goes, maybe take some pictures. We're going to have to maybe desolder it from the chassis, and we're going to have to really clean this thing as best as we can. This is going to be interesting, but I think I can handle this. We'll just have to desolder everything off and do our best to not screw it up. Okay. I am going to, there's a plate missing that goes, I believe it's just a piece of sheet metal that's bent here and here, and it is missing, and it supports the entire tuning rack, and we're going, not the tuning rack, but the tuner selector, and we're going to reproduce that part out of sheet metal. I want to do that today, actually, and to give this some support. But I remember, you know, it was, you know, the middle of winter, and this thing was sitting in the shop while I was assembling, you know, meters for customers, and John and Sherman would be arguing with each other over what should be done. And Sherman's like, oh, whatever you do, just don't fuck it up. Oh man, I missed that. I actually ended up with this because John's widow, who I'm still friends with, she's a lovely woman. She didn't feel that it fit the home's decor, and she had eventually remarried, and you know, they were starting to, you know, make the house theirs, and this was kind of a leftover from that time, and she asked if I wanted it, and I was there the next day with a car to load it into. I didn't want to see it get neglected, so I'm like, well, let me see what I can do. But all the work that you see, all the restoration work, was done by a fairly talented engineer. It doesn't look the cleanest, but then again, when these were brand new, they were kind of ugly. You know, the beauty was on the outside, but these radios were hand soldered, you know, on an assembly line by unskilled employees. So they are what they are, and it's up to people like us to keep these running, keep them around, even though it's only an AM receiver. But one of the cool things about the Grunow is it actually has a 1/4-inch jack right here, And that 1/4-inch jack will allow me to, I believe, inject audio into it. So potentially we could be looking at maybe a future Bluetooth project, or maybe I just hook up a phonograph to it to see what happens. I'd like to do that, if I'm honest. You can see the large electrolytic caps. They are still in place, but they've been taken out of service. So what he did was he just cut the leads off of them and replaced them with these. It's a 450 volt 22 microfarad cap right there. And then this one over here, there's a so for aesthetics, it's common to leave those in place. So anyway, let me see what I can do. I'm going to try to get this out without damaging anything, and we can get it on the bench and really look it over and maybe do a better job of cleaning it up. This way this problem never happens again. That's my goal. So. Okay, we've liberated the switch. I'm going to put this in my ultrasonic cleaner and see what happens. Yeah, we're going to clean this thoroughly in the ultrasonics. Then we'll be able to get a better idea of what we need to do. But I'm wondering, I mean, none of the fingers are broken off on the contacts, so that's a plus. That's actually quite, but you can see there's a lot of buildup. Oops, you can kind of see there's, I can't get this to, there we go. Yeah, you see all that yellow crud right there? Yeah, that's probably part of the problem. I don't see, I mean, there's oxidization. So let's just ultrasonic it, and then we'll see what we can do from there. So while the the tuner mode selection switch thingy is soaking and buzzing as it may do from time to time, we are actually I just ordered some new wire to replace this wire, which is now this is not the right wire to use. It's far too soft. It's carrying 120 volts for the switch, and it runs throughout the chassis, and you know, that's just not great. It's really not great. So I'm replacing this with 20 gauge stranded reproduction braided wire. This is the same stuff that they use for guitar amp restorations. Tube Depot, by the way, if you're looking, they've got the stuff. So we're gonna plan on taking the switch back out again, and we're gonna put it in the hot tank as well. So I've got my iron warming up, and we're gonna desolder this. We'll take this this out. I want to take the entire volume control and I want to soak it in the hot tank. Let's take a look at how our selector switch is coming out. I'm actually quite impressed. It's working really well. I've been in for like 15 minutes so far. So this is looking really good. We're going to have to kind of go a little bit with the steel wool, but you can see the tarnish is coming off. I think it will be a put together and put some tuner lubrication or rotary contact lubrication on there. And I hope those weren't brass plated. that would be, you know, of all the cheap things to do, that would be the scummiest to do that. Usually they're solid brass if they're of any brass content of any kind. Okay. Now, this whole assembly here, where we really can't do that to this because we just can't. I don't think it's worth the risk. I'm gonna probably drip a little bit of candle wax on this. That looks like a fix to me. Somebody did. Could have been John, could have been somebody else, but the volume control apart, and that's pretty much all there is to that. I'm going to take this and we're going to put it in the tank as well. Clean that sucker right up. This is going to sound really bad because of the ultrasonics, but as soon as I drop that sucker in and turn the ultrasonics on, a plume of yellowish nastiness is starting to ooze out of that sucker. Get that back on. So yeah, anyway, so as soon as I dropped it in there, it just, you can see the cloud filling up the chamber. This looks amazing. And I am wondering, so I'm going to have to do some additional cleaning with a little bit of elbow grease. But it looks like, all right, so what I'm looking at right now, and I don't know, let's go to a better location. My concern is, are the little contacts which squeeze onto that rotary disc, are they closing? Okay, they're supposed to close up when they're no longer in front of, or when they're no longer squeezing onto a contact, and it looks like they are, so they're still springy. We just have a lot of stuff in there. I'm gonna have to take some emery cloth, and we're also going to slip it underneath each one of these, and we're going to do our best to clean it. I can only get to one side, not the other, so that is a point of concern, but I think we got this figured out. You can see there's still a little bit of a residue on them. So maybe if I go like this. Here, let's try to get this one. Yeah, they're still clamping down like they're supposed to. All right, here we go. So we're just gonna kind of go like that. You know, then we're gonna hit the other side of it. Because it's two-sided. And then we're gonna flush these with a little bit of deoxit. And there we go. Yeah, we're getting somewhere. All right, so let's try to slide that in. There we go. And we'll get this one at the same time. You don't want to take away too much material because that would be detrimental. They don't make these anymore, you know. The thing is, when you're working on, you know, some of the less common antique electronics, like the Grunow Teledial. Not that it's not common, but it's kind of a unique piece in a way. Now, Grunow, as I understand it, wasn't really renowned for quality. As I could be wrong, and please correct me if I am. I'm sure there's some Grunow telephiles out there who can kind of give me the lowdown, but I don't believe Grunow was one of the more renowned brands. You know, I think Philco and Zenith were probably more respected, but look at all of that combination of oxidization, and it looks like these are actually tin-plated brass. So I had it backwards, and you can see where the tin plating is wearing off over here for one reason or another. But nice action on the switch. Nice. No rust or anything except a little bit on the shaft here. But that could be from the moisture in the wood and the console. Some of that moisture may have gotten to the metal over time. Made in USA. Who is the manufacturer? No idea. No idea. All right, let's get these cleaned up a little bit. This rotary part, we'll clean that up right now. All right, so this is quadruple 0. And we're just gonna kind of manually clean up what we can get to. So my goal is to save this radio, obviously. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna throw it away if I can't fix it or anything. It's not like that. This thing is a beautiful antique, but I'd like to start working on the cabinet. You know, I don't want to give it a. I'm not gonna look. I'm not a perfectionist, and it's not going to be perfect. Yeah, the tin plating is coming off. That's what's happening here. So it's tin plated brass. The tin is to prevent oxidization, but the tin is long gone on these cons. I mean, it is history. So there's not much I can do for that. You know, it's gone. You know, it's just gone. It's worn out. Yeah, I believe they would use tin to prevent oxidization on the contacts back in the day, and I think they still do that, to be honest. I don't know why I thought it was the other way around, like brass plated tin. It doesn't make any sense. But I think that's as good as she's going to get. And again, these contacts are doing their job. They're opening and they're closing. So when the contact is not in the fork, the contacts should touch one another, as they seem to be doing at this point. And if they're not, we can always give it a little. Why don't I do that? Let's give it a little bit of a persuasion here. Just kind of bend it down a little bit, so that will eliminate the problem entirely. Yeah. Now this one, it rides on the disc all the time, so it never closes. But this one, you can see pretty clearly, it's got some good chops on it. This one I'm not so sure about. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just kind of bend it. Yeah, that's better. That's better. See, what you want to do is when you rotate the dial or the knob, you want to see that contact open up. That's what you want. Yeah, we're good there. We're good there. We've already cleaned them as best as we're going to. So what we're going to do now, I think at this point it's time to treat everything with a little bit of rotary contact lubricant. We've got this Radio Shack Control Contact Cleaner Lubricant. I've had this forever, but it's still good. It's messy. We're going to spray it in the trash can. And we're going to just kind of wipe away the excess. That's going to keep it nice and lubricated. It comes out white, and then once it cools off, it's boiling right now because it comes out of the can cold. Yeah, but that lubricates the entire rotary pot. This is not a rotary pot. I'm sorry, wrong term. It's going to yeah. I think that's going to solve the little intermittent problem where it just decides to not work anymore. I think that's going to solve us. Solve it. Solve us. Solve it. Solve you. So I'm going to have to wait to test this out because I'm going to put that new wiring in the volume control switch after it arrives. And I've ordered a new power cable. I went with an 8-foot brown braided rayon. I think that's more in line with what it would have had when it was new. Probably not exactly, but I don't think it matters, does it? Funnily enough, the tuner selector, the AM band selector seems to be okay. That selects AM, and I think police and fire. I believe it's a 3-position, and that one seems to be okay. Let's take a good look at that one next. It seems like there's a bit of an alignment problem. So there's 4 rotary switches. This is kind of a nightmare. There's a lot to go wrong here. I've already lubricated and cleaned these contacts once, and they don't look half bad. These aren't as badly oxidized as the ones we just saw on the So this switch here, gosh, I'm all over the place. I am so sorry. This rotary switch that we just took out, that we just cleaned and made happy again, this one selects automatic tuning, basically, and non-standard tuning and advanced tuning, and it gives you 3 tone selections for each side. So there's a 6-position switch, high, medium, no, it's how's it listed? It's HM, I think it's high, medium, low on each side. So that's the tone: high tone, medium tone, low tone. So did that thing just shut off on me? No, it's just really quiet. I just changed the switch. Give it I think that's gonna do it. This isn't really all that bad. I don't think we have to really go much further. It's actually in pretty good shape. I'll give it 5 minutes. Like I said, I don't think the volume control was really the problem, but since I'm going to take it apart anyway, I might as well clean it up. I think what I'm going to do now is we're going to put the that rotary switch back in, solder it back up, and take a look at this. But as I was saying, so that is a 6-position switch that gives you basically 3 tone selections per tuning mode. So kind of a unique radio, and you don't usually see these kinds of features on a lot of these antique radios. But the Grunow Teledial was definitely it was ahead of its time in some ways. If only the quality were better. But so this is basically ready to go back in. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it'll be okay. And we got it cleaned up pretty good. I'm going to clean the bracket with a little WD-40 and some steel wool, just because. So moving ahead, we got the volume control in the tank. I can't reassemble the volume control until we have the new wire in, so we're going to have to do a little bit of time jumping here. But for now, I'm going to reinstall this, and then we're going to look at this tuning rack. Now this is so this switch controls the whether you're going on standard tuning or automatic fine tune. I'm going to call it AFT because that's what everybody understands. So it is also functioning as a tone control. You have 3 set tone control positions on each side of the switch. It's a 6-position switch, and what this is going to do is give you high, medium, low tone on standard tuning and high, medium, low tone on automatic tuning. I do not use automatic tuning on this because I know it is a trouble spot for these, and I don't want to wear that feature out. So I don't even use it. But it works great on either side. I believe John did a pretty good job of fixing that when he had it. God bless him. And so we're going to leave that alone. But this rack here, it has a bit of an alignment problem. There's a bit of a finding the positions. I mean, this central rod is not twisted, but it just seems to be, it wanders a little bit. So I'm going to spray some tuner lubricant in each of these 4 switch plates. And we're going to try to, mitigate that. So I got the volume control cleaned up. I did make a mistake on this, actually. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I should not have ultrasonic this sucker, and here's why. This is like a carbon film type rotary controller, and I didn't realize that. And it's attached to a paper or fiber backing, which swelled up. And it's okay. I think it's fine. But that was a mistake. I'm just going to get that out of the way. I'm not too proud. When I screw up, I'll tell you. I wish more people would do that. So if you're going to clean your rotary pot for any rotary pot, make sure you know what you're dealing with, because I looked up, I did a few searches for cleaning rotary pots in ultrasonic cleaners, and some people do it. It's a thing, but there are exceptions. This is an exception. What I should have done is just flushed it with a little bit of whatchamacallit. God, don't turn 38, guys. I should have flushed it with deoxit rather than ultrasonic cleaning. The end result was a really clean switch, but that was probably not a good move. So I actually connected this to a multimeter and verified. So, by the way, it is a 100K switch. If you measure across these 2 outer terminals, those measure the start and the end point of that carbon ring. It's a 100K, so the carbon ring is fine. And then measured between the wiper and just kind of pick an end, and I slowly turned the dial, and the multimeter slowly dropped, and then once it hit the other side of it, it went right back up again. So it's working fine. I actually like to use analog multimeters for that, because the digital ones are fidgety sometimes, but the analog ones, you can see the dial move up and down. I'd like to pick up an analog multimeter just for that purpose. Anyway, we got this back in place, cleaned up, soldered back up. Right now, we're just waiting for new wire. I'm not going to put this back together with this wire. This is not the right stuff to use. This is too fragile. It can be cut easily on the metal chassis, and before you know it, you've got a short circuit. It could be, because it's not a polarized plug on the end of this thing, you could potentially end up making your chassis hot, which is not a great thing to do. Just use this. So this stuff is nice because it will flush the contacts out. This flushes any oxidization out of them. And that's what it's for. So. And then if you wanted to, you can just kind of let that sit for a little bit and then spray it with air to, get out any of the oil. I don't know if this stuff. Oh, non-flammable. That's what my next question was. Is it flammable or not? No, it is not. I'd like to take this section off of this tuning rack or a switch rack and clean it in the ultrasonic to get the old grease out of it, but I don't think that's entirely necessary. But yeah, the center point is a little bit wandery. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think it's all right. It'll be fine. So tomorrow I'm going to run over to my local Lowe's Hardware, and we're going to get a piece of steel about this thickness. And I'm going to make this piece, do a reproduction. I feel like it should be there. I mean, Mr. Grunow himself put it there, so he must have put it there for a reason. And maybe we can start working on the chassis. I mean, the cabinet. I'd like to just give it a quick refresh. Has to be sanded. The entire finish is faded. It's not, it's funny. It's not really in bad shape. It's just faded. And I've tried, various products that you probably shouldn't use, and they obviously didn't help with anything. And yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. Check for any loose wires, because I don't know the stage of completion. I don't know the status of some of these. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? There's something John stuffed in there. It was stuffed up inside here. Don't know why. Oh dear God. Huh. Oh boy. And yeah, there's nothing. It's a hack. It's just wrapped around there. It doesn't connect to anything. I don't know what it's for. He probably had a reason to put it there, and he's not with us anymore, so we can't ask any questions. That's a shame. I understand in my head how a push-pull amplifier works and what it does. I just have a hard time explaining it. I'm not an engineer, so I can't put it in engineering terms and then put it in layman's terms. Does that make any sense? I hope it does. But anyway. Yeah. If anyone happens to have a Grunow sitting around and you happen to have a spare volume switch, I'd like to have a spare one since I can't seem to find another one. The other thing I need is I'm missing, I believe, 4 out of the 8 dial screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm missing. I have 3. I need 3. So I need 3 of those screws. They're a special screw. I've never seen them before on anything else. So if you've got a set of those, I'd love to. I'd like to. I'd actually like to find a complete chassis, just to have the parts. I think that's pretty sensible. Looks like these transformer screws are loose. No, it doesn't seem to be. There's just a washer there. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at just really iffy connections in some spots, and I just have to make sure that those all get addressed. I don't want to have to take this son of a bitch apart again. Well, here's where we at. So yeah, chassis, the tuner chassis is free as a bird. This is what's left of the bushings. There's nothing left. That's the joke. There's nothing left. They're gone. Hard, plasticky. So obviously I went to my local Grunow dealer, and turns out it is now a CVS. So they didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. So I went through my assortment of just general bushings, and yeah, this looks like the one that's going to do the job. I'm going to make it happen. What we're going to do is I only have one of these. This is a 1/4 inch inner diameter, 7/8 outer diameter. The correct thing to do is to remove the chassis from the chassis, right? And insert these the right way. I have decided, well, you know, I just got to get my soldering temperature hot enough, because I cannot desolder this. It doesn't get hot enough to desolder these braids right here. Try as I might, it is not hot enough. And I reached for my most powerful iron, and no bueno. I'll try again. I mean, this thing will just lift right off. It's pretty much already there. Just take these cap twisties off, and we just undo these 6 joints, and this whole thing will come off, and we can just do it right. If I can't do that, I'm just going to split these in half and just stack them in. All right, so we're going to go forward a bit. I got the tuning capacitor and the dial assembly, the tuner, basically. I got it free from the chassis. Not completely, but just enough so where I can do the bushings. So once I get bushings, I'll be able to get them in front and rear. So I had to desolder the ground straps that go to the, there's actually 3 of them that go to the tuning capacitor, variable capacitor. And I found that the wires going from, now I'm sorry, I'm not a radio guy, so please be kind. Not a vintage radio restoration expert, so I think that's pretty obvious. But these little guys here connect each section of the variable capacitor to this switch rack thing. Yeah, close enough. The automatic tuning coils. So I found a few problems. Look at these wires, okay? They're just done. They're done, son. When John did the restoration on this, he didn't do a thorough restoration. He just got it. He never finished it, really. So I think he'd intended maybe to replace these wires because the insulation is gone. So I'm in the middle of replacing these. I found that, so these 2 are going to be hard to get to because I have to solder through here and do it really carefully. I can't remove this assembly because there's just too many wires. But as I was kind of working around, I found something. I found a problem. This wire right here. Now this looks like a factory solder. Look at that. Uh-oh. Better get Mako. I'm going to fix that right now while I know it's there. And these are the things I have to check for because I found, that's not the first one I found. The wire I'm using is leftover wire from my Philco 37640. I bought all this wire to rewire the speaker coil, and because it's got 4-wire speaker connection like this one, and yeah. So I had some extra wire from that project from like 5 years ago. So I'm using this. It's a little bit thicker than the original wire, but it's the same color. So I'm just drilling out the, I'm replacing these grommets while I can too. I'm drilling out these standoffs. The engineering in this set is really weird. They put a lot of attention to detail in some places, but not others. Anyway, let's see what I can do. All right, so where are we at? Well, I'll tell you. We got all new wiring for the tuner capacitor. And you can see all these little crumbs everywhere. Well, those used to be grommets. And to remove them, you just take a pair of pliers, grab them, and squeeze. And they just poof into powder. Because the rubber, you see, is long dead. Ain't nothing gonna bring it back. What the hell? What the hell is this shit? Is that a wire that is grounded to the chassis? That shouldn't be. I think it is. We're going to just bend that terminal down a little bit. For freak's sake. This thing is a disaster. Yeah, when John went through this, he wasn't looking for historical accuracy, so he did not use cloth wire. But I'm using cloth wire because I can get it easily. It's not that hard to get. At least the reproduction stuff. And it looks nicer. You know, it looks good. It's the original color. Working on one of these is like working in 3D because, as you can see, and this is how they were made. I mean, you've got resistors supporting capacitors, and everything is in a big jumbled mess. But everything has a place and a reason for being. For example, when I was desoldering the original wire that went to this switch this contact right back here, you can see a tiny little orange capacitor, a little ceramic capacitor back there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me see if I can get it in frame. Maybe not. You can see, yeah, that little orange dot back there. Well, that is connected to the switch directly right there. Well, you can't see it. And when I desoldered that wire, that capacitor came undone. So now I had to go back and fix that. A lot of this, this is brass webbing that was done. I think John did this. I think he replaced some of the original webbing with new, and I don't know why he did, but those are used for grounds, obviously. Yeah, finding loose connections everywhere, having to fix those. I mean, look at this capacitor just kind of chilling over there. Oh, here's a chunk of chassis grommet. Oh, this one's got a little bit of gumminess to it. Anyway, we're going to go to the hardware store, and I'm going to buy some, I found the size I need. It's actually in my car, so I don't forget it. But it's kind of like this, but 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch inner diameter, 1/4 inch thickness, 7/8 in diameter. And I'm going to use those. I'm going to stuff them in here, there, and behind. And what I'm going to do is pick up a couple of washers, and I'm going to either get them with a 1/4 inch hole in the middle or have to drill them out. And we're going to use those as spacers if we need to make any adjustments. Pretty simple stuff. Someday this thing will be ready for action again. But yeah, all those, I don't even know. I mean, some of those might have been causing some of my problems. I mean, now that I think about it, I found at least one broken connection this time. The capacitor may have disconnected on its own. It might have been already disconnected. So that's a possibility I want to think about. And we got that rotary volume, which checks out fine when I put it to a multimeter, so I think we're good. Even though I royally fucked up, and I'm going to regret that for the rest of my life. Alright, so I got some bushings for the chassis, or for the tuning chassis. And here they are. I've got a couple of different options here. So I got these washers that are going to... So the original bushings are going to be a little bit thicker than half of a grommet. And the idea is these washers are going to take up the slack. So they're going to just kind of... We're just going to kind of, take up a little bit of that slack. So when we put the actual grommet in there, it's going to be about that thick. And look at these packages. Like I said, I got a couple of different options that we can play with. I've got these. And I got these. Don't worry, I'll show you in a second. All right. So these are more like what would have been. So between that and, oh, that's perfect. So that's going to meet the top of that shoulder. If I put another washer on top of that, it's going to be, oh, that'll be great. That'll be great. So let's see how these fit in there. Do that for all 3 mounting points. Well, that was a really good call. Look at this. It's like it was made for it. That was a good call. No, really. So we just drop one of these washers on there, and that's just going to take up any excess slack. Then we drop on one of the original washers, these looking little guys here, and then we throw the nut on. And the chassis grommet issue is resolved, just like that. It's just so, just like that. So that allows the chassis to, or the tuner chassis to absorb some of the vibrations. I think the purpose for doing this is to reduce interference between the chassis and the tuner chassis and the speaker. So without this rigmarole here, without all these custom bushings, the tuning capacitor would vibrate more excessively, I guess, than without. That's my thought anyway. I think that is actually what the point is. I think that is correct. So why am I missing a wall? There it is. So these washers go, again, they go right over there, and they take up any play. The right thing to do would be to take these flat washers and potentially clean them, but I don't think I need to do that. Slide those on like that. Oh, here's the other one. This one goes here. And we got these little lock washers. Don't drop that. I don't want to break that. I have some really good news, actually. I'm glad you asked. I have some really good news. I was just tooling around on Facebook Marketplace, and just for shits and giggles, I looked up. I just looked up Grunow Teledial, and wouldn't you know it, I found another Grunow Teledial. Now, this one is a lower model, but it has the same chassis, I believe. And even if it's not the same identical chassis, it should be close enough for some ancillary parts like volume control pots and hardware. And it actually has a full set of dial screws, which I need. I'm missing 3 of them, and you can't get them. They're unobtainable. I mean, you could get them, but I can't. But anyway, yeah, as luck would have it, it's available, and it's only a 3-hour drive one way. But I look at that as a sign from above that I am meant to fix this thing properly, or whatever approximates properly in my basement. So I am going to be driving out the end of this week to Connecticut, to sunny Connecticut, to pick up another Grunow Teledial. It's a complete radio. It's not missing anything, it looks like. It looks like a total piece of junk, but it's all there. It's got the dial, it's got extra, it has a complete chassis, and like I said, I'm hoping that that is going to have the bottom cover that I need. So we'll see what happens. If it has the bottom cover, then I don't need to make one. If it doesn't have the cover, then, well, obviously I need to make one. So here's to hoping, right? Now, what I don't know is if the bottom cover is supposed to have, if the entire bottom of this chassis is supposed to be enclosed. I don't even know that. But we're going to find out when we dig that unit up and get it over here to New Hampshire. So this is exciting. This is really good news. You should be happy for me. All right, let me finish bolting all this down, and I'm going to pull these wires up and get them all soldered in place for the tuner. Good stuff. So the tuning assembly is nicely mounted now. It's got a little bit of play in there, but that's okay. I only tightened them down as much as I had to, but there is some bounce in its step. A little bit. Got to reconnect those ground straps. I'll have to fix that right now. I'll just solder them together. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of chassis beautification. I'm going to just dust this with a little bit of black lacquer. I'm not going to go crazy. The entire chassis, at least what I can get to, I've cleaned with a steel wool pad and some WD-40. Just, make it feel good about itself. And yeah, a rusty transformer is less efficient. No, just kidding. Don't actually believe that, please. I'm going to have to mask more of this off. I don't want any overspray, and I have to make sure I protect that label too. So